are live. Okay, so I think we are live now, and it's going to be very interesting video. Why I'm doing it live, because I think this is the best way to get started. Let me just start quickly. Okay, let's do this. Yep. Hi everyone, so welcome to my channel, and I hope I am audible as well as I am visible as well. Okay, so now in this video we'll talk about TechLead. Okay, as you can see probably in the bottom corner of the screen, there is a guy who is like very popular. Recently he made a video about why React Native is garbage, and a lot of people reacted to that. And today I am also going to talk about what he's been talking about Flutter. So let's see what's his points and where I see they are wrong or right, and what's my opinion about them. So without any delay, let's start right now and let's see what this guy is talking.
All right, hey guys, welcome back. This is the first episode of the TechLead show. You may be wondering what's going on here. Nothing is going on here. I'm just starting a second channel. This is where I can put up some thoughts that I felt was maybe just not really suitable for the main channel. Maybe the topic would be too niche, or maybe I just haven't really formulated a really thorough opinion on something and just wanted to.
So here's my thought, like, why this new channel when nothing is different? I think he got bored with his old channel because there were a lot of promotion and all those things were happening. And his beginning start like of this particular video was really amazing, that yeah, you might be thinking what's going on here, but nothing is actually going on here. So yeah, that's good.
Just throw some random thoughts out there. And also these videos, they're not going to be heavily edited either, so it's going to be more of a casual conversation. And that's pretty much how it's going to be. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. Nobody asked you to come by. So that's the name of the game. Appreciate if you do come by and stick around though. So I wanted to kind of talk about Flutter today. A lot of people have been asking me about my opinion on this framework. Flutter, it is a cross-platform framework for hybrid app development, not hybrid, full app development across iOS and Android cross-platform, right? So you write in the Dart programming language, and that pretty much is able to run on all sorts of platforms. And the way it does this is it renders this essentially using like OpenGL graphics, and everything is just pixel by pixel level. So if you think about it, it's very similar to the way, say, Unity works. Unity is a game engine that a lot of people will develop on. Like once you develop it, then you can run it on iOS and Android cross-platform. So what they want to do is take this concept of game development, graphics engines, and basically build like this app graphics engine for mobile. Now, one thing to understand is that as a mobile developer professional who's been working Facebook and Google, we've researched, like, this is a space that I have been looking at for quite a while. And a lot of these frameworks tend to overpromise and underdeliver. And I wanted to kind of explain why I'm not super optimistic about Flutter. I think that it's probably good, but it's going to take a long time before something like this really comes to fruition. So let's get into it. Okay. So
I still remember that I think 2 years back he made a video about Flutter, and like his initial point was at that time, like, in maybe next 2 years it will become something better than what it is today. And now he still believes that it's gonna take a long time. Let's see what more he has.
So first we come here, we see, okay, Flutter is Google's UI toolkit. They promise all these things like fast development, expressive UI, native performance, and it all sounds good from the outstart. And there's even some companies using this, but you have to keep a few things in mind. So let me give you my points on this. First up is if you consider iPad support, okay? So one thing that a lot of people don't understand or forget to consider is, well, iPad is also something that you need to support in addition to iPhone, and Android. And you may even want to support all of the other native ecosystems like Apple Watch, CarPlay, so an app spans more than just iPhone and Android, and who knows, maybe in the future at some point, I believe in the future version of Mac, they want to support running iPhone apps in the desktop as well. So when you go with Flutter, you miss out on a lot of support like this. So for example, iPad OS recently they announced support for cursors. And so you'll be able to bring a cursor in and start manipulating objects. And if you're using all of the native components from...
Okay, here's one thing. Like, I just really want to know how many people actually have iPad, first of all. I know like in US there will be so many people having iPad, but in India, how many of people like have iPads or even any kind of tablets? Second thing is that like iOS recently announced this cursor support for iPad OS. Why this guy is so worried about iPad OS on the first, like about the cursor in the first day, and then like how does it matter? I mean, I think when something like iPhone X came, then it had that notch. This was one of its kind at that time, and Flutter already used to support that. So why he thinks like there will not be any kind of support for cursor in Flutter? That's second thing. And third thing, I'll just talk about it, but let's watch what
iOS using UIKit, then you're going to get support for all of these new gestures and mouse support. However, if you're using Flutter, where everything is just rendered custom, you don't get cursor support, you don't get Apple Pencil support, right? You don't get a lot of this stuff. Maybe just get some basics. Text editing actually, I think is a big thing. So many apps, you want to go in there, you want to be able to write text, you maybe even want rich text input, you want to be able to insert images, maybe select things, both things, you want to be able to bring your cursor in, and all of these native interactions for text editing, you're not going to be able to get that if you're using Flutter, right? Like Flutter can try to...
Okay, here's the thing, like I have this iPad which you can see, and it also has this pencil, and to be honest, when I have used it just to maybe scroll few things or just to like click on a particular application, apart from that I have just used it for drawing, all the drawing purpose, or maybe like making tutorials using this pencil. Apart from that, I don't know how many apps use this pencil apart from being a note taking app or something like that. And why, like, is this the one of the priorities when you talk about cross-platform frameworks or any kind of app development kit? That's really, I mean, interesting to me if someone like with his kind of experience is talking about these things first, rather than talking about real app development and all the major things like accessing cameras, accessing Bluetooth, and there are so many things, right? Let's see what else he has to say. Like, this is really interesting topic.
Simulate that. It can try to imitate that, but it will never quite be there on the same level, especially as the OS is introducing new things. So, think about it. In which apps do you think really good text input is necessary? Many apps, really. Like you want to create a to-do list, you want to create a app for typing comments and interacting with people.
So he just said to-do list, and please remember this because at the end of the video we'll talk about it.
People communications, messaging, all of that is really heavy on text input. So if you're using Flutter, you can't get that. You can't get support for third-party libraries, like you want to implement Giphy support, for example. You want support for the Google board, maybe. I don't know if Flutter is going to get you some of this stuff. Same with Apple Pencil.
I don't know why would I want those things. Like to do, I can make it. I think most of the things like Flutter supports in terms of text, apart from rich text, which I'll talk about just now. But is this even a priority? Let's see.
Is it guaranteed that Flutter is going to support that? Maybe not. And so text input, I think, is a big deal. And even if you were to go over to Flutter, you go over to their issues in GitHub, we can take a look. And this is one place I like to take a look for new frameworks, just to see, are there these random issues? Sometimes you'll see there's these huge issues that people don't talk about. You don't realize until you start digging into the framework. Sort by most commented, And you may find like there's a bunch of issues that people just don't even get to because nobody cares enough or nobody has time to get into. And so if we come over here, rich text editor here, right? It would be a good package. This was requested in 2017, okay, 2 to 3 years ago. And there's 55 comments on this, and people are just saying, yeah, this would be great to have. And they say, yeah, we don't support such a widget. It would be useful though. And it's just not really on high priority. People aren't really building this out. And even as recently as March 23rd, which was 2 months ago, they're just saying, will we see this feature one day in Flutter? When will Flutter start to work on it? And your whole app is pretty much stalled out because of small issues like this. We can check out some of these other issues here. Support a vector drawable format. Code push hot update, native ads integration, some issue. There's some obscure issue with instance state not being saved when the app is killed, multiple issues on Linux, URL launcher. So there's a few issues here and there. It seems like simple animation costs high CPU, GPU power usage. I mean that could total your app, right? Any one of these issues, any one of them can be this huge time sink for you, and it could cripple your app because emoji size is off on iOS. No solution for that. Okay, so that's one thing.
Okay, so the idea here is that okay, I know that there are so many issues on Flutter GitHub repository. That's true. Second thing he said is that if you will find any kind of issue apart from these list of issues, then you may get somewhere you won't find a solution for that. But trust me, I know rich text is definitely something which people want, and not everyone, but yes, there will be few people who, let's say, wants to make an application like Medium or maybe some kind of article writing application. Then they probably need rich text support. But I don't know why they didn't prioritize this thing, because maybe there were not that much request as compared to other things. Second thing is that there is a third party library, I think not one, maybe more than that, and they are trying to fix this thing. So that can also be one of the perception from the team that if someone is already doing it, then let them do, and because it's not the highest priority as such. And apart from that, whenever something like Flutter will get a boom, which it got in recent years, in last 2 years, so Flutter got so much hyped about how it works and everything. So definitely there will be many issues, but if you want to take my opinion, that don't judge any framework by the number of issues, because I can also say it has so many stars, so you should use it. But that's not how it works, right? I would rather say that you should try it first, and if you feel that it's not working for you, then it's something which definitely you can take a decision on. But TechLead is a native developer. I know, I have been a native developer and I have tried Flutter, but I cannot say the same thing about TechLead. Did he make a to-do app as well, anything like that? I don't know. So this point is not I cannot accept it, because I need more of issues in terms of if he will compare two applications with the same features, and then if he says that this is not working, this is working in native, this is not working in Flutter, then I can definitely accept that point, and yeah, that makes sense. But this thing just for rich text, iPad, cursor support and pencil support, these are bullshit things to talk about. Let's see what else he has to say.
The other thing is, if you were to take a look at the top app stores on Sensor Tower, okay, what are the top apps here? Overall downloads, right? We see TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Likey, Shared, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Gmail, Google Maps, Netflix, Messenger. So the thing is, a lot of these top 10 apps, they have, the way I see it, some of the top apps, you take a look at the top, say 10 to 20 to 30 apps, they're pretty solidified by now, right? So if you want to compete in the app game, you need to go big or go home. And if you're out to just create some hybrid little app because you want to save yourself a little bit of time, then why are you even creating that? At that point, maybe you should just build a mobile website or a desktop website and just let people go to that. And once you start getting huge amounts of traction and making a lot of money from that, then you take the money, pour it into resources into developing an iPhone app, launch on iPhone first, for example, in the US market, and then you take it to Android and launch on there. I think that's pretty much what Instagram did, right? They started on iPhone first, became a huge success, moved it over to Android, and that seems like a really legit, solid strategy that can propel an app into the top, say, 50, right? Because it's native support, it's functioning really well. And the thing is that the mobile app space is so competitive that if you were to really look at some of these demographics, like the metrics, you'll find that like 95% of time is spent in the top 10 apps or something. It's like 99% or something like that. It's huge. There's this huge scale, this bias towards just using the top apps. And then the whole long tail, everybody else is getting almost nothing. At that point, yeah, you can play the game, but it's kind of a losing game in my opinion.
So he's comparing with some top applications in the market. That is really a valid point, but only when you are like not a single person working on an application. If you are really a giant company, then it makes sense to compare with Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, anything else. And to be honest, like Facebook and Instagram are some of the application which also use React Native, if I'm not wrong, these days. So like in last video he was saying that that is garbage, so that's not true. And the second thing is, like, I saw some of the comments recently on this particular thread about jobs. Okay, I'll come to that point. I'll talk about jobs as well and what's missing, what's not. But to be honest, like when you are making an application, how many people have that budget to like start making applications on like on a big level? Or let's say when you start, you don't know that whether you will become the next Facebook, next Uber. I like they also didn't know if you will see the even the user interface of Facebook 10 years back, or whenever it came, it was not what it looks like today. So that is something which definitely happens with the time. And if let's say if you will become that much successful to produce something like Facebook, or if your app gets like viral in the market, then if you will have sufficient money, then do you even believe that you will bother about which platform to use? Like at that time you will just say, I have money, I can invest in anything, just give me the app. And you will ask your developers to make it, whether it is Flutter, whether it is React Native, whether it is native. So that's definitely something. But I still believe like he is right about like 90% people use this application. That is really true. But these are not all the application on the store. On the store there are like lakhs of applications, even crores on Play Store. I'm not sure. But yes, all of them are not Facebook, all of them are not React, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Some of them are very small, and I think there are many people who are trying to solve a problem. It doesn't matter to them if it is being solved by Flutter or it is being solved by a native. And about the job, we'll talk about that. Let's hear more.
There are some scenarios in which Flutter may be useful, but I think that it could just be quite minimal, when you think about the actual problem space in which it could be useful. Technology like Flutter may have been useful 3 years ago, 5 years ago, right? When it was still possible to start building like just random small indie apps, and you wanted to gain traction across iOS and Android, and you could put in some effort like that. It's kind of this middle ground, right? It doesn't need to be a spectacular app, doesn't need to support everything, doesn't need to be really great and performant, and yet at the same time people would still be willing to go out there and explore and download the app because the market has not hit app saturation. Now the other thing that I want to know is that this sort of client-based solutions is kind of giving way to newer, better technology. So what I'm really talking about is there's better stuff out there now. A lot of these top tech companies, they're moving towards something known as server-side rendering. So when you take a look at, say, React Native or Flutter, these are client-side solutions that allow the client engineer to basically create any type of UI that they want to create. But if you were to say, okay, well, let's just put this one framework on the client, right, that can render anything. Let's say you build a HTML rendering engine, web rendering engine on the client. And that's essentially what a lot of these top tier tech companies are doing. They're just recreating HTML. And then once they have a basic set of instructions, they go over to the server and they just send down whatever they want. Great. They can send down layout instructions, button instructions, images, text, content, videos. And once you have an engine like this, like why do you even need something like Flutter or React Native? You just build in more generic, abstract level type of flexible rendering components into the client. You ship a binary release every 2 weeks or so that adds support for these new sorts of instructions.
Okay, so now he's talking about some server side rendering thing which is still not available in the market, and he's now comparing that with whatever present today. I don't know what kind of comparison it is, because if something is not available, then what is the sense of like talking about it? Because I can say many things about, let's say, Fuchsia will come and do a lot of things, but it's not here, so it doesn't matter what will happen in the future. We don't know, nobody knows. If someone would have known, then he would have done it. Or if anyone knows what is the funda of doing the right thing with cross platform, then he could have done it. But to be honest, like this is like just thinking about future for no reason, when you have like many options at present. And yeah, I think there are some points which is valid, which he has like said about, but still I don't find a suitable reason where he was talking about some real stuff. Like in the comments even I can read about jobs. That is still a valid argument when you compare native with Flutter or whatever you are comparing. But these arguments, like he was talking about iPad OS. Okay, today you want to say like you should become a native developer. Let's say I'm an Android developer, then also how I would make application for iPad? It is not possible, right? For that I have to learn Swift and I have to write apps in Xcode. But if you are not in favor of like, let's say if you are saying that I should learn native app development, then also I have to learn two things. Because at one place you want to like you are giving this argument that it should support everything. Then yeah, I mean there will always be pros and cons. That's my point. Like it's not like you will achieve everything in one day, and now you are talking about some server side rendering thing. And once it something like that will come, then you will again give these same points that it's not doing this, it's not doing that, it has certain issues. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see what else. That's not some kind of argument which I would want to listen when someone is comparing two things. Like I'm not a die-hard fan of any technology, but yes, whatever works for me, it's good for me.
Enable huge amounts of different types of rendering layouts and components. Then you just send the instructions down on the server. And that's pretty sufficient for a lot of needs, right? So that's server-side rendering for you, and it turns out to be kind of a more promising solution. And then the other thing is, a lot of these client-side frameworks, they may not necessarily support other features, right? Like I mentioned, like the native text editing, but they also may not support like dark mode, for example, which you probably want to support. That you might want to support accessibility and different font sizes and all of.
I think Flutter has a very good support for dark mode from the first day, and as well as all the things which even Flutter is now using Metal APIs for apart from OpenGL in iOS application. So that's not something which is a concern. And in the terms of accessibility also, Flutter does a good job there as well.
The native features that a user would expect. And so when you do this solution using server-side rendering, you're going to be able to get support for all of that. And one thing you have to consider is there's actually more than just two platforms, iOS and Android. There's also web, mobile web and desktop web. So there's more like 4 platforms, and even more than that if you consider, say, CarPlay and Apple Watch, right? Android Watch. So you got all these other platforms that you may want to support. And even if you were to write the solution for, say, Android and iOS, well, you're still going to have to reduplicate a lot of that logic for mobile web and desktop web. That's why, for example, if you were to go towards a server-side rendering solution, you try to move all of the logic you can possibly over to the server. So all of the clients get that same basic set of information, and then the client is like this empty shell, and it just renders things. So in that way, you can try to move as much business logic and content over to the server side, and it removes the need for you to have to program a lot of stuff on the client side. Because the thing is, even if you were to build in Flutter, you're still going to have to rebuild this stuff over for mobile web, desktop web, and your technology stack is still going to be split, right? So, yeah, maybe you can write some stuff in Flutter, but you'll probably still need to know how to code in iOS, right? You'll probably still need Android. You'll probably still need JavaScript and web technologies. And if you want to support Apple Watch on CarPlay and Android watches, you still got to go into that native tech stack. And when you go into these native areas, you'll find, oh, your network layer, you didn't build that out. You've got no infrastructure for it. Your images, they are not optimized. You don't have image compression libraries. You don't have security set up. You don't have any of the tech stack or infrastructure set up for these other portions of your code base, which maybe you had been building out for Flutter. And so then what happens is, okay, you got to go to this other tech stack and build out all of the infrastructure for that as well. And you've essentially, at this point, had to start duplicating everything. Your accessibility, translation, colors, layouts. A lot of this stuff, all of these libraries, offline support, that infrastructure that supports even building, say, a simple page, just showing some text and images in native code, you may not necessarily have support for that.
Okay, I got his point, like what he's saying about if you are a Flutter developer and if you want to play with some libraries, maybe there can be few plugins where you might have to write Kotlin, let's say for Android, and you might have to write in Swift. So basically what he means that you might need more than one language understanding, and that is true. I totally believe in that. But now I think his argument is something about like in favor of server side rendering for no reason. I don't know, if something is not even available in the market, then maybe tomorrow you will see the same thing for the same technology as well, that it does not have the library support as well. And to be honest, like everyone knows how to copy and paste code from Stack Overflow. So let's say I assume, even if I don't have Android knowledge, but let's say Flutter is doing all the work for me, but I stuck with one part. Let's say I want to have some camera permission, but I don't know how to do that. And let's say Flutter does not support that directly, like there is no plugin, and I have to write native Android code. Then also I think I can search about it on Stack Overflow and I can fetch that code and maybe I can use it. Is that better? Or if it's like writing all the things from scratch in native is better? And second thing, I can even ask for help. That's why community is there. I can ask like some native Android developer or iOS developer that I want to implement this feature. I am facing some issue. Can you help me? And maybe someone will definitely help, because it's kind of a common situation. And today at least we can find almost every solution on Stack Overflow, on Google, and that makes sense, right? And second thing is that he's always like in this entire video is either talking about iPad OS, and second thing is talking about server side rendering, because you cannot compare with server side rendering, because there will be again same problems once something like that comes in the market. And there will be same situations. There will be, if you want to support multiple platforms, you don't know, like let's say there is a server side rendering app and it's sending some data in form of JSON or whatever. Okay, then also how you will control all the operating systems, different operating systems, there will be challenges as well. Then how you can be very sure about it from the first day when it's not even there? So I think I don't know what's his point of view about it. It's very different. Like if someone is talking about job, let's say, then also I can believe that, that's a very good argument. If someone talks about that performance is not good in terms of anything, then also I think that's a valid argument. But if you are comparing with something which is not even in the market, and I don't know what to say about it. But his video is about to end, and let's end it as
So,
fast as
and this is
possible.
all assuming that Flutter is delivering 100% everything it's promised to deliver. So, more than likely, you're going to run into issues. So, that's in the ideal case. But in the unideal case, there may be some black hole bug which just sinks like a week or 2 weeks of your time as you're trying to figure it out.
Okay, so now he's talking about a bug which he does not know about. So he's just assuming that there can be a bug where you can waste your time. There can be a situation where you will stuck and you can waste your time. I mean, that can happen with any technology, man. Come on, just grow up. I mean, even if you're a native developer, I have spent so much time in few things. There are bugs in native app development as well. When I used to work on Eclipse, I used to face a lot of problems. When I was working with Kotlin initially on the native Android front side, then also I used to face so many problems. Like, how you can say that there will not be any bugs with any platform or any technology? Oh my god, that's really hilarious.
And then you
Kind
figure
of
out, okay, you have to
arguments.
actually go into the Flutter API to maybe start trying to fix something there. So those are my thoughts on Flutter. But when you think about it, well, why is a technology like Unity?
Okay, he didn't give any thoughts about Flutter, to be honest. He just talked about few things which he wanted to speak, like server-side rendering, iPad OS. Somehow he likes iPad a lot these days, so that's why I also like iPad. But that's still something which I would like to make application in Flutter. Like, I have a Flutter application which supports iPad, so I think I'm good with that. But he probably is not able to make application for iPad as of now, so maybe he's disappointed.
Able to succeed so well. And I think that's partly because it's all about gaming. So the purpose of that, is like you're trying to create a separate way to interact with the app, a separate world, right? Where maybe you're driving a car, but you're not expecting to go in there and you have like a mobile web version of it and you want to be able to use your Apple Pencil on it and type text in there and input graphics and have all of the basic functionality that you may normally expect of an app. And apps are they're supposed to be native. That's what people expect, that's what people want. Games are kind of held to a different type of standard in which, everything can be kind of strange and people are willing to spend some time in there and figure things out. And, but the thing is, like, would you want your to-do app to be in a game? Probably not. That's not really what you would be looking for.
Okay, do you want your to-do app to be like a game? What kind of comment is that, man? I mean, like few minutes ago you were comparing Instagram, Facebook, and now you came to to-do app, and now you think like it's like a game in Flutter. Really? Have you even used the platform? Have you even seen how widget works, how you design Flutter applications? I think he's drunk. Now this is the point where I think he's drunk. Really, he has given some things like in the entire video of like it's. I have just wasted 15 minutes of my and yours. I'm really sorry for that, but in those 15 minutes, I think there will be hardly 40 seconds where he was speaking about something which is valid. Otherwise, it's totally some kind of nonsense. I don't know what else to say, but let's finish it.
And so beyond that, when you consider that the whole app marketplace is pretty oversaturated, and if you're to build like a mobile website using just standard web technologies that functions across Android, iOS, and web, that may be a far cleaner solution. And then you gradually try to get in there if you really need an app. But I would ask yourself, do you really need an app? And are you really looking to compete with, say, these top 10, 20, or 30 top tier tech companies? Because if you go out and push out like just some mid-tier app, the number of people who are using that will probably be very, very minimal. That's just how oversaturated and competitive the app marketplace is. So that's kind of my thoughts on Flutter. Maybe a little too late, over promising, and probably going to under deliver. And even if it doesn't under deliver, feel that the tech may still be a little bit too late at this point. And maybe if everybody would just get on iPhone, then people could just start coding over in Swift, and all of the problems with cross-platform would be solved. I mean, that's one way to do it. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Flutter. Let me know what you think. Good chat, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, finally he is done. And thank you so much, TechLead. I will definitely let my views, like I'm even talking about it right now. Let me just disable this view for good. Okay, so now let's talk about how he finished this thing. Okay, so you know what my problem is with this particular video and why I'm doing this, because he actually has very good followers, and when I see people like talking about something and like if he could write the title like Flutter versus something else and totally my opinion, then it's a different thing. If he would have written that Flutter, what's my opinion about Flutter, then also it's fine. What he has written in the title is why Flutter is dead on arrival for iOS, Android, something like that. Okay, that's also my title of this video, by the way, but it's just having not. Okay, so when you say something like that, you mean that you have really valid points about something, because a lot of people follow you. So you are giving arguments on the basis of what you feel as a tech person or as a tech lead, you know about things. But when you give arguments based on something which is not even present here, and something which is not even like make sense in the industry, then it really feels bad to see those things, and people following you will think like, these are really valid points, but these are not. And second thing is that in the entire video he didn't give any kind of comparison things. Like, I know few people who criticize Flutter for few things, but they give a valid argument. Like, let's say they talk about background services, that okay, this thing is still needs some work. They talk about web views, that okay, this also needs some work. Then they talk about maybe jobs, that you Flutter, if you are a Flutter developer, then you might not receive those many jobs. I don't know if it's really true, but yes, there's definitely more jobs in native development. That's true. So if you will give those kind of arguments, then I'm totally like able to hear you, and I will definitely agree with your points if that are actually making sense. But when you say about some cursor support, which is not even like anyone cares about today, like how many people are using cursors with iPad, how many people have iPad in fact, and then somewhere you say that technology should support all the platforms, and somewhere you say that okay, you don't have to go cross platform, and then somewhere you just talk about server side rendering for no reason. I mean, why you have sufficient examples to give, right? So that's my point about this entire video. If you feel like there is something missing in Flutter, then go ahead and like try it out, and just check your use case. If it's not working for you, then it's probably not good for you, and if it's not something which is suitable for your use case, then definitely go ahead and try React Native if that works for you. But blindly don't believe if someone is saying something. Even don't believe me. I'm not saying that React Native is good, I'm not saying native is good, I'm not saying Flutter is good. I would just want you to ask that how have you used any of them. If you have used that, if you have like tried to, let's say if I'm making a kind of Snapchat, right, I'll try to make a POC in Flutter. If it's working for me, then maybe it will work in a long run as well. But if it's not working for me, then obviously I know I have to go native now. Similarly, like there are many web people who are like very much comfortable with web. I think they should stick with React Native, because maybe React Native is working fine for them, and if everything is fine, then why you will switch to something else if like really something is good for you. Sorry. And the third thing is about jobs. I think jobs of Flutter has been increasing, and due to coronavirus, I think things have changed a little bit. But what I know from my experience, from what I receive from recruiters, I have also recruited few people for Flutter jobs, and I receive regularly mails, and like on LinkedIn there are many companies messages me to train their people for Flutter. I'm talking about India, obviously. I don't know about other countries, but yes, in US also there is a good adoption. And yesterday I was talking to a from a guy guy from Brazil, and he was also saying that Flutter is doing good in Brazil as well. So I think there are many countries where Flutter is actually gaining that momentum, where there will be more jobs, because it is actually helping in terms of like saving your cost, saving your team effort, and maintaining a single code base. So yeah, that's about my points. Now I'll take questions from the viewers. Like there are so many questions, I haven't replied to any of them, so please ask your questions. Okay, so okay, there, this video is actually being watched by so many people right now, and that's why I made this video, because I think I don't have any personal grudges with any YouTuber, any tech person, but I would definitely say if you don't have valid arguments, then don't talk about it. If you haven't tried something, then it does not make sense to say something bad about it. So yes. So I think this video is already very long. I cannot go from the beginning to read all the comments. So if you have any questions, we will have 10 minutes more, and I'll try to answer your questions. So I'm new to Flutter. What are the requirements needed? Can I get job related to this? What are the basic things? I think no. Okay, so there are two more things which I want to talk about here. You have to decide like what you are looking for. If you are looking for a job, and like it depends where you live, maybe it's really very much possible that you are not able to find Flutter jobs in your area. So if that's the situation and job is really a necessity for you, then you should definitely look for other alternatives. Maybe it can be native web development, it can be React Native, whatever is in demand in your area. Second thing is, there are many people who are already working on something. Now he wants to you can say enhance their skills. They want to learn more things, they want to learn more technologies. Then definitely Flutter is a good thing for you. And if you feel you are good in Flutter, then trust me, there are so many companies looking for Flutter developers even today, and you will definitely get a job. It's not like you will not get a job. Let's say in India there are only 6 jobs, let's assume. Then why you cannot be the person who will be a part of those 6 like people? Like why you cannot be one of those 6 people, right? So it's like that. You have to be clear from your mind. Like if you feel that you are good enough, then you will definitely get a job or whatever you want to achieve today or tomorrow. So that's my point about it. um what about using Flutter with Django? I think you can use anything, like it doesn't matter. For on backend what you are using, it's totally fine. It is not anywhere related to Flutter. You can just have REST APIs, you can use GraphQL, whatever you want to use, and like you can go ahead. Okay, can you mention some Indian companies which are using Flutter and Dart fully as single code base, and what are the use case? I think there are many service based companies. I'll definitely not take their names, but yes, I know some of them. And I can say that there are a couple of big companies which you might have heard, and they have reached to me recently. Even last week I got a message from one of the founders of one of the biggest like company in I won't say about it, but yes, I'll definitely talk about it once things get clear. They asked me, they want to make their application in Flutter, and it's a really famous company. They have really good application that is very famous, and it's something which I have like wore in my body, so it's something related to that. So now you can, if you can guess, then you can definitely guess about it. So there are many companies, there are many service based companies. Why service based companies are taking more interest? The reason is that their clients wants them to make apps in Flutter, because it saves them money in terms of like they don't have to make separate apps for Android and iOS, and then it also reduces the number of people working on the project. So yeah, if something is working fine for them, then why they will choose something else rather than Flutter? And second thing is, there are many product based companies as well, but I think it will take more time for them, because it's kind of a decision which business takes. And when business is taking those decisions, then they need more proofs, they need more kind of stability in the market. So that's also one of the things. How long did it take you to learn Flutter, and how many hours did you commit per day? It's not like that. I mean, to be honest, if you want to know my points about it, I would say that when I started Flutter, there was no one to convince me that I should learn Flutter. It's totally my personal like will to learn new technologies. And at that time I used to think like it's solving a problem of developers. That's why I moved to Flutter, and not just moved. I would not say you have to move from one technology to other. You can do everything simultaneously, but yes, there will be one primary technology where you work. Let's say for me, Flutter is my primary tech, and apart from that, I still work on native web development. I work on Kotlin. I work on some backend languages as well. So it's not like something is going to replace your entire tech stack. It's not like that, but technology is like evolving every day. Everyone is running fast, and they all of them wants to learn something new, whatever is being crazy in the market. And yeah, that's how it is working. do Flutter have any route guards, or should we use routing packages such as Sailor? I think there are many packages. I don't know why exactly you need route guards as of now, but I think they are working on routing part a bit more because of like they have to work on routing in Flutter web as well. So I think in future you will see more of things related to routing. Okay, Adobe XD Flutter, is it good for big app development? If you will ask me today, then it is not, clearly not, because the code which it is generating, it's really not for production. That's what I feel. That's totally my opinion, but I won't write Adobe XD is dead. No, like there are many people who are using Adobe XD for design part. Like, you know, if you can convert that design to Flutter, that is an extra thing, that is an extension of Adobe XD. But even if you can make design, then also like you can ask your developers to replicate that design in Flutter. So I think it still needs some work, and because it's in a very early phase, so it's not a justice to say that it's not gonna work. Maybe they will come up with better ideas, they will produce better widgets, because I was like reading some comments from the Adobe XD team. I think they are working on like making it more production level, and yeah, it will take some time, but Adobe XD is a really good tool in terms of design. And if Flutter part will be done, like it seeing that production work is good and the widget it creates is good, then I think it has a really good future in terms of Flutter. But apart from Flutter, Adobe XD is still doing good. I mean, there are many people who uses Adobe XD, Figma and Sketch, so yeah, that's always there. I know Flutter and Node.js, now I want to start web, how can I? If you already know them, like you can just like starting web, what do you mean by that? If you want to just make just become a front-end web developer, then maybe you can try Flutter web for certain use cases, not for everything. And apart from that, maybe you can React, Vue.js, Angular, whatever you want. Flutter web is still in beta. Any idea about first stable release timeline? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, and I think it's nobody knows, because it can take some time until unless they will feel that it is actually good for everyone and it can move to stable branch, then only they will do it. They are not in a hurry that no, we have to, like, you know, make it a news in the market. No, it's not like that. They are working hard on it, and maybe in future, I don't know about months, how many months, but yes, maybe in future you will see stable release. Does servers, okay, what's your opinion on Flutter web? Flutter web is actually not ready, to be honest. From my point of view, it's still in a very early phase for me. Maybe there can be some scenarios, like let's say if you want to make an admin dashboard, then maybe Flutter web makes sense. But if let's say if you have to reach to thousands of users using Flutter for web, then it can be really a problem. Let's say if you want to make an e-commerce application in Flutter web, then right now it's not, I think, 100% ready, especially for production. Maybe you can play with it, but that is totally my opinion. Things are improving, that's really true, because I have used it and I have been like experimenting with it a lot. But I think it still needs some time to reach to that point where you will say that's production level and it can kill everything. And there is one more point which I want to talk about, and that is that, you know, maybe Flutter for web will never be equal to what what Vue.js or React.js is, because it has a very different perception why it has been made. Let's say I am someone who has never worked on web. Okay, I have never worked on web, and now I want to maybe provide some web kind of interface to my users, so that if let's say someone is not interested in actually let's say using my mobile application, then also I want to give them a light version, let's say a PWA or something like that, then I can use Flutter for web. There can be many situations where, you know, you don't need 100% great web platform, you just want 50% or maybe 70% of good performance. You want like something which can work, so maybe Flutter for web is right now in that situation. So that's my point. Thanks, Chetan. Are you open to co-found new apps with anyone you don't know but evaluate new ideas? I think I have been working with so many things right now, so I cannot commit about that. But yes, if I like something, then definitely I can definitely involve in that. It's not like I will co-found or something, but yeah, if something will be interesting, I can definitely give my at least opinions. Yeah, that's what I can say about it as of now. Okay, I think it's been a long video so far, and I think we should end it. But I that's why I did it live, because I wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to know your questions. I wanted to answer them rather than making some like shitty video about like why it's not good, why it's bad, why it's garbage. Not like that. Okay, so your thoughts about Flutter for Windows, Mac OS? Will it replace old GUI libraries of like Java, C++? I think, you know, the support for Mac OS and Windows is also in a very early stage. If I'll say anything about it, then it will be injustice, to be honest, because I don't know how much impact it's going to make. But yes, what I feel where it is going to make a competition is with Electron, because right now Electron is something which is being used by like VS Code is totally written in Electron, and Slack and lot of applications. So I think the major competition for Flutter for desktop will be with Electron, and apart from that, I don't think it's gonna replace anything. I mean, it's not about that. It's more like if it is helpful for your application. Let's say if you have already a web application, a mobile application, now you think like, if I support the desktop version of it, then it's a good thing, right? I mean, if you are getting something extra, then why you will say no to that? So that's my opinion about it. What you prefer for complex Flutter, complex application, Flutter or React Native? To be honest, like I have used React Native only for small application, like just for trying. So I won't say anything about React Native that if it is not good for complex application. But yes, there are certain things which I believe that Flutter performs well as compared to React Native. But to be honest, if you'll ask me right now, then I'll go with Flutter. Maybe I am biased with that because I am using Flutter for most of the application. But yes, that's my honest opinion about it. And if you'll ask someone who has done like sufficient React Native, then maybe he will say he will go with React Native. So it's totally like how much people have worked on a particular technology and what they have built out of it. So it can be really different, and it also depends on the use case, what exactly you want to build. So yeah, that's my point of view about that. Okay, let's take few more questions, because there are many questions coming, so I don't really want to miss those. So yeah, that's why I'm taking them. Can Flutter be used to develop or modify systems app like dialer or settings app? If you want to really do that, then I personally won't feel that, you know, Flutter is a good option for that. Why? Because let's say if you want to make a custom dialer, then it's anyway it's going to be different for Android and it's going to be different for iOS. So why you will go with Flutter? Because the reason why you are using Flutter, so that you can write once and do two things. But if you really want to do two separate things, two separate kind of customizations, then why you are not using native? Because anyway you have to write code in native somewhere. That's my opinion. Thanks, Venkat. Flutter over React Native? Yes. My last question: how you got the job in Google? Okay, I don't work in Google. So yeah, end of the question. I still haven't seen most companies opting for Flutter or React Native. What your thought on this? Will this change anytime soon? See, like you haven't seen, that does not mean it's not happening. Or if I haven't seen, it doesn't mean it's happening. But yes, what I feel as a like tech enthusiast is that there is everything, like for every technology there is jobs, there is like sufficient number of people doing that. Otherwise you won't even hear about it. Like let me give you an example. There is something called framework 7. Okay, it's something similar to what PhoneGap or Cordova was, but it was made recently, like few years back. Have you heard about it? Because if you haven't heard about it, or if you don't see it all along, then that means that it is not that much popular, or that means that it's not having jobs, or it's not having anything. But if you'll talk about Flutter, React Native, they have a good impact in the market as of today. So that means there are definitely jobs, there are definitely people who are talking about it, and there are definitely people who are interested in that. Otherwise even if let's say there are 5000 plus issues on GitHub, then also it has been created by the developers, right? So that means that there are a lot of people like engaging with that, and there are a lot of people who are facing issues on something, or maybe there are future like feature requests. So that means engagement. So once there is an engagement, then definitely someone is using it. So if someone is using it, then there will be job as well. So what my point here is that there are sufficient number of people who are using React Native, there are sufficient number of people who are using Flutter, and there are sufficient number of people who are using any other native options like Android native Android app development, in Kotlin, or let's say in Swift native iOS app development. So that's my point. So if you feel like you are good enough, then you don't have to worry about that part, at least that if I'll get a job or not. Yeah, you can do a lot of things, man. Can you make a full course on Flutter state management? I think when it's all about state management, I am still working on that idea, like what best I can make for state management as a course. But you can definitely see something related to state management very soon. That's my promise. How can you make an app that measure distance of an object? Oh, that's a very specific use case. I cannot talk about it right now, but yeah, if you can like post it somewhere, then there are many groups where you will definitely get an answer for that. Because of strict UI guidelines of Apple, materials would not work as a custom UI. That's not true. There are definitely some strict guidelines, but that is not related to material widgets as of now, what I know. But yeah, there are definitely few new changes which is happening with using web views in Flutter in Apple application or iOS applications. So yes, Apple has certain rules and regulations. You have to follow them, and even if there is something like that related to material widgets, then also I think Flutter team would be knowing about that. They have a like very close kind of like team who is watching all this. So don't worry, you don't have to worry about that. Happy Brothers Day, love from India. Thank you so much. What is the future of Flutter according to you? I think it has a very bright future. That's why I like when I started using Flutter, nobody was there, right? I mean, hardly there were countable people. So I always saw a good future. That's why I started using it. That's my point of view. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I think it's been a long time, and maybe I'll come back with some other video as well. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a long video, but I really wanted to answer TechLead as well, and answer you guys for your questions. And I think it can go for hours if I'll talk about it, and definitely I'll try to create more live sessions. I always try to do, but yes, I have been busy. I'm trying to publish more content over live chat, so that's the thing. I have some other works as well. So thanks for watching, and if you really want to know my opinions about other things, I am right now working on other things as well. You must have seen my demo video as well. Recently I published that. I also published a video on Adobe XD. So I have been playing with a lot of things, and a lot of things are also coming in the future. So subscribe to the channel right now, and also press the bell icon if you want to get future updates about my live sessions. And follow me on Instagram, because maybe tomorrow I'll make a live video on Instagram. So on Instagram you can like find me as Codepur ka superhero. So you can like find the links anywhere, and follow me on Twitter. Thank you so much. Bye bye, take care, and I'll see you very soon with another video. So bye bye, take care, and I hope I answered most of your questions. Thank you so much for watching.